Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fire Emblem Discussion. Today, I wanted to make a Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn tier list. So, as many of you probably have seen and know, Mecha recently hit 20,000 subscribers, which is really great for him. It's awesome. I remember, I can't remember. I feel like I started watching him when he had around 1,000 ish subscribers, and he's blown up since then. It's good for him. But today, I just want to do what he did for his 20,000 subscriber special, which was make a tier list for FE7, but I'm going to do it with Radiant Dawn because I freaking love Radiant Dawn, and it's the game that I probably know best, which isn't saying a whole lot, but I do love this game. So we're just going to try and tier every single playable character in the game, and we're just going to do it in recruitment order as it's shown here. And then on top of that, I'm going to give myself a few rules, which are to rules being like just kind of like general efficient playing, like thinking about like resource management and stuff like that, and how much I have to put into a character for him to actually be good. Because for example, if you take a character like Edward, he's fine. He can be awesome, and he's around long enough to be awesome. So not a great example, but you have a character like Zahark who joins not too much later, who can do everything Edward can do, except takes next to no investment. So that's something to consider. And then another thing to consider is how long they're available in the game. So Radiant Dawn has some really weird availability issues, where characters will only be available, like Joffrey will be available, where is he? Joffrey will be available for like a couple chapters, and he's available for like 2 chapters in part 2. It's like more like a chapter and a half in part 2. A chapter in part 3, and then a chapter in part 4, and then endgame. So he would be a much better unit overall if he was just around more, but the thing is, he's not. So compared to a character like Elena, who honestly isn't that great of a character, but she's around for like the entire game. She's available in like part 1, part 3, part 4. She's super available. Okay, so let's get into this. Micaiah has... She starts off awfully weak. She generally ends the game really weak. She, dies in one hit. Oh, by the way, I will be considering hard mode as like the basis for this tier list. So Micaiah, like, can't take a hit in the early game, and when she can take a hit, she gets doubled. So she is just a really hard unit to keep around and keep safe, but you have to bring her in every map. So there's that. So there's like no opportunity cost. You have to use her. So it's the kind of thing where a lot of people will say, well, you might as well train her, but that's not necessarily the case, because those resources still could be better used on like Edward or Nolan, or even Aaron if you're into that, and then especially Jill. So I'm gonna say Micaiah, due to forced promotion, which gives her the ability to use staves in really not until part 3, but that's still very useful in part 3. And part 4, but late game promotions and everything, she's really hard to use. I'm gonna say D tier. Edward starts off extremely weak, is sword locked, which isn't as big a deal in Radiant Dawn as it is in other Fire Emblem games. So I'm gonna put Edward at a C or B tier. I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm gonna say C tier. He requires a lot of investment. I mean, he has enough time to grow, but he's just outshined by other units that are joined right around the same time as him, and that can do just as much work as he can. You know what I mean? Like that can fill the role that he could fill. There's just really nothing special about him that sets him apart. He does have an innate Wrath skill that doesn't cost any skill points, but Wrath is less impressive in this game than it has been in the past due to its the lower HP threshold to activate. Just overall, I think Edward can end up really, really powerful, but takes a lot of investment. Turn up the music a little bit. That was really quiet. There we go. Hey, Leonardo is trash tier. He may be one of the only units that actually ends up in F. He is so bad. Because bow locked, and then just bow locked. He does come with the Draco shield, but I don't know if that's a point in his favor, really. But he's just really he can do some chip damage here and there. I'll give him the E tier. He can do some chip damage here and there, but he's not that really viable, especially in hard mode where he's just a total liability. If he gets hit, he's dead. And I mean, he's not as frail as Micaiah, but he doesn't have any staff utility that Micaiah has, or even sacrifice utility that Micaiah that has. So Leonardo is just bad and it's E tier. Nolan, he's very similar to Edward in that he has a lot of room to grow. He starts off at a higher level with higher bases than Edward and joins just a chapter after him. So they're honestly extremely similar units, except Nolan uses a better weapon type, which are axes. They generally have higher might, and hand axes are better than wind swords that sword lock units can use. Still requires a lot of investment, but overall ends up being a powerful unit and can tank hits in the early game that Edward cannot. He's available. I'm gonna say he's better than Edward. I'm gonna say B tier. Lara is just a healer. She has staff utility. I'm gonna put her. Oh goodness. Staves. I mean, they're not as powerful as they are in, say, like Thracia or even like the GBA games. I'd even say, because like there's no warp. I'm trying to think if you even get your hands on a rescue in Radiant Dawn. I think you can. I can't remember. Anyways, I'm gonna say D tier for Lara, but that makes me want to move Micaiah up to C tier because of the low opportunity cost for her compared to Lara, and also because she just ends up being a better staff bot in the end. I think I'm gonna put Micaiah in C tier. Soth, horrible end game, amazing early game. Makes the game, honestly, if you rely on him, if you use him correctly, the game's easy. So I'm gonna put Soth. I should say the early game is easy. I'm going to put Soth at a solid B tier. I think him and Nolan fill similar roles, but Soth has a better early game and Nolan has a better end game. So I think B is pretty fair there. Elena is available, I think she might be the most available character in the game, where she has plenty of chapters in part 1. She is available for almost all of part 3, and then of course part 4. So I think Elena should be thrown in at... but the problem is she's just not a good unit. I feel like this is when sages are at their worst, is in Radiant Dawn. Their stat caps are just not very good for endgame. Staff utility doesn't come until 3rd tier instead of 2nd tier now, so sages can't even use staves. You have to be an arc sage. So that hurts them a little bit too. I think Elena... just in general, like similar to Micaiah, she struggles to take a hit. She's not as fragile as Micaiah. She'll struggle to double in most instances, especially in hard mode. So I'm going to say C tier as well. She's super available, so I'm going to say that. I'm going to put her below I'm going to put her above Micaiah though. Aaron. Okay, so Aaron honestly really struggles to double on hard. Okay, so easy normal mode, Aaron is really, really good. He can tank a lot of hits. He's just really solid defensively, has enough HP until he starts growing where it builds. I think Aaron can play a similar role to Nolan in normal and easy mode, but I think in hard mode he struggles to meet stat benchmarks that make him really viable. So I'm going to put him below Edward in C. Just he struggles to double, and in turn he struggles to kill. I don't think his defensive capabilities really make up for that in the early game. I mean, he can be powerful end game, but I think there are plenty of other units that can be just as powerful, if not more powerful than them. So I think that's pretty good. Meg. Oh, Meg. Meg is a sword armor. So she's stuck to swords, which again isn't as bad in Radiant Dawn as it is in other games. But she's also an armor knight, so she has really low movement. And she has this weird thing where her speed growth is like 70, but I'm trying to remember, I think her defense isn't that great and her strength isn't that great, which is really weird for an armor knight. But no joke. I mean, I did like part 1 and some of part 2 of a Radiant Dawn Let's Play on my channel, and Meg died in part 1, chapter... It's either 4 or 5. The one where you find Peleus in the desert with Tironio, Jilla, and Zahark. That chapter. She got doubled, which is the chapter after her recruitment chapter. She got doubled by Myrmidon and died. So I don't know about you, but if an armor knight is getting doubled, that's relatively normal. But if they're dying in 2 hits, that from a Myrmidon, it's pretty bad. I think we have our very first F tier unit. Oh, fix this. F tier unit, Meg. Volug. He fills he fills the role of early game, really powerful unit that can just delete things for you if you need him to. Similar to Soth, but I think he does it better, has higher movement, has so much HP, it's ridiculous, super tanky. Like, oh, he's so good. I'm going to put Volug at the top of B tier, just because his overall game performance isn't as strong, but his part 1 performance is so good. Half shift really works on him early game, it's really great. Alright, Jill. So, Jill, I love Jill. Jill's one of my favorite characters in all Fire Emblem. I think she's great. So, maybe biased, but I'm going to put her to S tier. There'll be units that are above her, I think. But Jill is just really, really powerful. She has really good... Jill's really good. She has really good... Jill has a lot of utility in her flying, and she uses axes, which is the best weapon type, as I've mentioned before. Dragon Knights lost their weakness to bows in this game for some reason, which is awesome. And she's weak to thunder magic, which isn't really that big of an issue because thunder magic isn't that prevalent in the game. And she really helps carry the Dawn Brigade, and especially in those hard part 3 chapters. So I think Jill is an S tier. She is one of the few units that really can rival people like Har and Ike in their overall usefulness and utility in the game. So I'm going to put her in S tier. I know people will be upset and say that she should be more of an A tier, because really you should give her a Seraph Robe and that energy drop you get, maybe even the Speed Wing. But there's no one else that really uses it better than she does, and with those things she becomes unstoppable. So Jill is just really good unit, S tier. Tironio, another early game Jagan but next to no availability. I'm gonna put him. I want to put him in C tier. I'm gonna put him below Edward and C. I'm gonna put him below. His availability is just so bad, but when he is available, he does help a lot. Except for, I don't know, he doesn't help a whole lot in part 3, chapter 12, in the defense chapter. He can plug a gap, though. I'm gonna say, I put it right there. Sure. Zahark is baller, A tier. He is everything Edward is, except no investment required. He's super good, and he can totally help carry the Dawn Brigade, as well as be super useful in part 4 and the end game. Similar to Jill, they joined at the same time even. He's just really, really good. I don't think he's quite as good as Jill, because he's foot soldier and sword locked. But again, swords aren't that bad. Fiona. She is... Fiona joins underleveled with low bases and does not... I don't know, she doesn't have anything about her that makes her better than anyone else at anything, really. I mean, she's a knight, she's a cavalier, which is great, but being a lance cavalier in the Dawn Brigade isn't that useful, because there's a lot of awkward terrain and ledges and stuff. Makes it hard for her to move around, even in when the Dawn Brigade fight the Laguz Alliance in part 3 chapter 6. She is basically just unusable because she can't leave the starting island. So just stuff like that really hurts Fiona. So I'm gonna throw her... I think she is better than Meg, though. because she at least has like some rescue utility. She even comes with Savior, which I don't know if that's really a point in her favor because you can give it to someone else. But I'm gonna put her above. I'm gonna put her in D tier below Lara. Tormod. So the next 3 units, Tormod, Moram, and Vika, have literally 0 availability. Not literally. They're available for 2 or 3 chapters in part 1. Then they're available for like no chapters at all until I think it's part 4, chapter 5. Or is it part 4, chapter 4? Either way, that's like nothing. And they don't get any stat growth or level ups in between those. So they start off really good. I mean, even Vika's really like usable at that time in part 1. But the thing is, they all just, their availability is so bad. So I'm going to put Tormod in D tier. I'm going to put Moram above Tormod in D tier. Come on, work with me here. And Vika is going to go above Leonardo. He's going to go below Leonardo in E tier. I'm going to put him in E tier too. Moram is a little more usable than Tormod in part 4. It's nice that he starts transformed when he comes in part 4. And he can take a couple hits, but Tormod is basically unusable other than the Meteor Tome he comes with. So that feels all right to me. Nyla, she demolishes anything that she comes in contact with. Man, the music's really quiet. Come on, friends. She demolishes anything she comes in contact with, but the problem with her is her availability. I'm going to put her just behind Volug for availability's sake, but other than that, she's like perfectly fine. I'm just going to put all the dancers at the top because dancer out of 10. Black Knight is interesting. He's basically necessary to beat the game. I don't know if Micaiah could handle that solo chapter. It's hard for me to rank him. I'm just gonna put him in like by Micaiah because he really only contributes in like 3 chapters. Otherwise, he's just not there. And then you have to fight him later. Lame. Ooh, Elincia, interesting unit. Flight, a midi, which is a brave sword that's just like really, really good brave sword, and then staff utility. So she has the opportunity to be really good, but she has a really bad availability. I'm going to put her, because she's only available for like 6 chapters in total or whatever it is, of like the bazillion. There's like 30, I can't remember how many chapters there's like 40 something, I think, in Radiant Dawn. Someone correct me on that one in the comments. I'm going to put her, I would like to place her above Edward, I think. But she's way better than C tier because availability. Oh my gosh. But her availability is so trash. You know, I think I'm going to... Yeah, I'm just going to do top of C tier. I have to do the top of C tier. I don't think she deserves anything more. Because even when she comes back in part 4, her damage output just isn't high enough, you know, to warrant it. I mean, she does some great like things with the staff and stuff. Oh, that's a hard one. Okay, Marsha. Similar issues to Elincia, except no staff utility, but she has a little more availability. I'm inclined to put Marsha in C tier as well. Yeah, let's do it. Leanne, dancer. I think she is the worst dancer though. Nelucci, bad availability, but is really nice to have around when he is around. But I think like that's a good spot for him. Har, aside from dancers, aside from the herons, probably the best unit in the game. So we're gonna throw him up there. Okay, my main man Brom, who wants to vom. I don't know why. Like vomit, vom. I don't know. Brom is gross. I don't like him, actually. So I'm gonna put him. I mean, he's an axe general, and I don't know. He's fine. That's the thing. He's serviceable. He would be totally fine if you wanted to use him. I'm gonna put him above. I'm gonna put him above Elincia. Come on, work with me here. As I'm doing this, I'm like, oh man, this is a gross tier list. Everyone's gonna hate this. Okay, Neph Aney. Totally serviceable. She has Wrath, which is cool. Lances are, you know, she ends up using the Wishblade if you take her into endgame, if you want to do that, I guess. She will have good stats in the end. She is a little fragile when you get her, though. It's a little hard to get her off the ground, but once you do, she can really start rolling. Some bonus experience really goes well for her once she caps like speed and skill. I'm trying to think. Does she like? I'm trying to remember. If, like I think her like resistance is good too. I can't remember off the top of my head though. So I'm gonna throw her. Like by Nolan. I think they have similar kind of like opportunity cost and the ability to grow. So I'm gonna put her right there. Heather is just a thief in a game where thieves aren't that as important as other games. I think she's more important than like Neluchi, but not as important as like having a healer like Heather. Yeah, that's fine. Lucia is trash because she's like around for like 2 chapters. I mean, she's a fine enough unit when she's there, but she's just not around ever. So I'm gonna throw her into the bottom of D tier. My friend Mordechai with the ability Smite, which you can give to someone else if you'd like, but he has it for free, which is dope. And he's big enough to wield it really, really well. He can shove just about anybody. So, Mordechai, I think he's definitely better than Moram, but I'm not sure if he is actually better than, say, Edward or Aaron in the long run. I'm going to throw Mordechai behind Aaron and call it good. Leth, similar deal, except I prefer Mordechai. I mean, cats just aren't that good. I feel like, you know, high speed is great, high skill is great, but their damage output just doesn't justify them not being able to have good combat, like, all the time. So what I mean, like, you know, like, Lagoos have to untransform every so often and then transform back after waiting a few turns and taking damage and whatnot. I think cats, their low damage output doesn't justify being untransformed for like for a chunk of the map. So I'm going to put her at the top of D tier. Joffrey, or is it pronounced Joffrey or Jeffrey? I don't know. So let's put Jeffrey. He has a similar problem to Lucia, except he's available for like 1 more chapter. Like, well, it's like really like half more chapter in part 2 endgame when he shows up eventually. And part 3, chapter 9, Marauders. So I think, but he's really clutching those chapters, and you can, he can solo them, like, basically, you know, rather like pretty efficiently too. That's like how I think that's like how the speedrun handles it. It's basically just have him and Kieran run up and bop the boss and stuff. I'm gonna throw him into C tier. Like, ahead of Marsha. I'm gonna throw him ahead of Elincia as well. I think honestly he's really good, and you could take him in endgame if you wanted to. He's not that far behind, honestly, by that point. Kieran is very interesting. He's very similar, but he is available for more of the game than Joffrey is. So I think I'm tempted to put him 1 spot above Joffrey. If you gave them the same amount of experience and everything, I think Kieran ends up a little better. And I prefer gold. I prefer gold knights over silver knights, which is the third. And I prefer gold knights over silver knights. So I think I like that pick. Astrid is bow locked, but she does have a horse. Her availability is like even worse than Leonardo's. Put her at the bottom of D tier. Makalov, a like average character if there ever was an average character. C tier. He's just kind of like whatever. Danved, whatever his name is. I feel like a lot of the Crimean Royal Knights are just like really middling. They're just like okay, but they're not spectacular, and it's partially due to how often they're around in the game. So I'm gonna throw Dev down there. Khalil is sadly a sage, which is a class that I feel got got like treated very poorly in this game. So she's definitely better than Tormod. I think she's better than Elena, but she's not around for as much as Elena. Elena has more opportunity to grow and become awesome, whereas Khalil isn't around as much, I don't think. So I'm gonna put her like right above Toronio. I think that is a good spot. Now I just feel like I'm throwing crap out, just saying crap for fun. Who knows if I don't even know if I'm right. Ike, S tier. Changed my mind. Basically needs no investment. Has a forced promotion at the end of part 3, which is, or I guess a bit more like the beginning of part 4, which does just fine for him. And he gets Ragnall, which is never breaks, 1-2 range, and is dope. Tattaglia, I'm gonna put her A tier above Zahark, top of A tier. I think no investment required. She can promote nearly instantly if you would like, and she's just a really, really strong unit throughout the entire game. I would put her at S tier if there weren't so many times when cavalry weren't as effective as they were in previous games, such as like ledges or like desert maps or swamps, stuff like that, where she's rendered really ineffective, where characters like Ike, Jill, and Har have free movement and can do whatever they need to. So I'm gonna say A tier for Tattaglia. Soren, Sage, probably my favorite Sage in the game, in my opinion, probably the best one. But that doesn't make him that good. So I'm gonna put him above Khalil. I'm gonna put him. Let's just put him above Khalil. Mist, basically Lara, but for the Grail Missionaries. She can't do damage at all, really, because she's locked to swords and there's no magic swords in this game, which there should be. Really poor design choice in my opinion. Her floret says that it's based on magic, but it's not based on magic, so maybe that's just a oversight on the developer's part. Rolf, definitely better than Leonardo. I would say he's better than Astrid as well. I'm going to just put him above Astrid. Boyd is, I think, a similar character to Nolan. And I'm not really sure which one to put ahead of the other. I mean, obviously, I think they're similar. But they... You could say that Boyd takes less investment than him, but Nolan has plenty of time to gain experience, and he doesn't have a whole lot of competition for it other than Jill and potentially Edward. And then if you're if you're crazy and want to level up Micaiah or Elena or something. But I don't know, he already has people he's surrounded by people like Soth and Zahark who are already just really good, so Nolan can grow. He's one of your best candidates for that experience. I think Boyd is right around Nolan. I'm tempted to say A tier for Boyd. He actually can be really, really good. And yeah, I'm gonna put him here. I think that's good. Oscar, I'm gonna put him at the top of B tier. Here's why. I was tempted to put him into A tier while I was thinking about it right there for that quick second. But I think I just don't think he really is as good as Tattaglia. He needs more investment. His strength is an issue often. He struggles to one round KO, whereas Tattaglia won't struggle with that as much. So I think B tier is a solid place for him. Shannon is definitely the best archer in the game. I mean, archers just in general aren't that good, but I like him way better than Rolf or Leonardo or even Astrid. So I'm tempted to say C tier, maybe even bottom of B tier. I love Shannon. He can tank hits if you need him to, but I mean that makes you go a little slower, I guess. I'm gonna put him at the top of C tier. If he were any other class, he would totally be an A tier. But locked to bows, man. Too bad. The double bow's super good too. Ugh. Okay. Gatri, I think, is a similar unit to my other B tier units, where he is really good, a solid combatant, but he falls short in a lot of areas. So I'm going to throw him right above Boyd. Yeah. Probably your best healer in the game is Rice. I think I prefer him definitely over Lara, and even over Micaiah. He's just a ready to go healer, and he can take a hit or two if you absolutely need him to. Maybe one, maybe two, depending on the enemy. So I'm gonna throw him, because staff utility is dope. I'm gonna throw him. This one's rough, actually. I'm gonna throw him below Marsha. Below Marsha. I said below Marsha. Come on. Okay, so this tier thing is dope, but man, come on. There we go. Mia. Booyah. A tier. Super good. I think she's a similar unit to Zahark, but requires even less like time and effort. I mean, Zahark is around for the time and effort and can get it, but Mia comes packaged, ready to go. Her strength is a bit of a weakness, but that honestly grows pretty quick, especially if you want to use any bonus experience on her after she caps speed and skill. She's gonna be just a monster. She's a great endgame unit, great user of Alendite, you know, for the 1-2 range, or you can give her the Vague Caddy if you want to. Just like either way, she's just really, really good. She starts off good, ends good. It's hard to complain about Mia. Ranulf is better than Leth, but is still a cat, so I'm going to say C. Liar is worse than Leth and still a cat, so I'm going to say E. Kaiza is better than Liar, but I don't think he's as good as Ranulf. I'm going to say D tier for him. I'm going to put him above, like, Rolf. I mean, a lot of people crap on Kaiza and Liar. Liar is just, I feel like, is unredeemable, but if you give Kaiza, like, a Speedwing, he'll double some stuff. I don't know. He's okay. Raisin. There's some debate whether or not he or Raphael is the better Heron. They both can dance for 4 people at a time, but Raisin has to transform first, whereas Raphael doesn't. So you can get some like first turn 4-person dances with Raphael. But I'm happy with this order here. I think that's pretty good. I mean, you could argue it though. Jeanette and Pokey are both very similar units. They both have flying utility, and they're both Hawk Lagoos. They join at a good time to be useful, I guess. So I'm going to throw them into B tier. Sigrid can honestly promote to 3rd tier really easy, but I don't think she is very spectacular. I think she is a similar. If you were to raise Marsha, she's like. I think Marsha ends up being a little better, but they're pretty similar. Because takes like no investment, and she can be a good filler unit for the part 4 chapter she's in, you know, for the desert map and stuff like that. I'm gonna put her just below Elincia. Tanith, similar to Sigrid, except she has a slightly lower level, but her bases and stuff her stats end up being better than Sigrid's in the end. And she's honestly just a couple levels behind Sigrid, almost just as easy to train. She's probably my favorite Pegasus Knight in the game. And honestly, in a game where Pegasus Knights just aren't nearly as good as like Draco Knights, I'm going to put her in C tier just below Joffrey and above Valencia. Skrimir, big dumb lion guy who has the ability to like one around KO tons of stuff. Lions probably have the best meter in the game. Best Lagoos meter, but he's only around for part 4, so I'm gonna say we'll put him somewhere in C tier. I'm not really sure where, so you're just gonna go not really sure. I think I would say he contributes more than like Kieran and Joffrey, and probably more than Brom. That's where I draw the line right there. Naysala. Now we're getting into the part 4 units. Really, like with Skrimir first. Naysala is similar to Skrimir, except he has form shift, so he never has to untransform, and he doesn't have to use any items to transform. And he is, I don't know, super fast, doubles everything, and kills just about everything in one round of combat. There's some enemies he won't be able to kill in one round, such as generals and whatnot. He's really good though. He flies, and he's really clutch in the chapters he's in, but his availability is pretty trash. So it's hard for me to. If his availability was good, he'd definitely be like probably an S tier, maybe an A tier. But we're gonna say B tier for him. I'm gonna put him. I'm not really sure where to put him. Just right there is fine. Sanaki. Oop, she went over there. I'm gonna put her in C tier. Probably like I'm gonna put her like just behind Soren. I think I think she fills a similar role to Soren. She doesn't have the ability to heal, though, but she requires literally no investment to be able to do some massive chip damage. A lot of people discount Sanaki's ability to do tons of chip damage. That's definitely like what she'd be good for in those moments that you do have her. Okay, Tabarn is just better than Asala, but again, his availability is not very good. I'm tempted to say A tier because he can solo maps by himself. I think you have to go A tier with Tabarn because he just right out of the box, he can beat those like the part 4 chapters that he's required in with just him if you'd like. So I'm going to throw him right there. Peleus, I mean, if you want to invest him in having Dark Mage, that's pretty cool, but it's really not worth it. So I'm going to throw him... I'm actually going to throw him below Micaiah. Because I think overall he could be better by the time you get there. Micaiah should be better than him if you're using her like at all. Sure. Man, there's so much middling in the Tellius games, it's hard to really have a defined, like... I almost feel like I need 7 subsections of C, but the thing is I wouldn't know how to separate those either. Stefan is a ready-made True Blade that you could take in the endgame if you needed to. And I think he's a fine replacement for... I mean, if you, for some reason, really want to take a True Blade in, and for whatever reason Mia or Z-Hark or even Edward didn't turn out, I think Stefan is fine and could make a good replacement. But I don't think he, like... does enough to warrant a very high ranking. I'm going to put him right at Edward. Edward level, sure. Ready-made healer and light magic wielder Oliver, but he's available for literally endgame. So we're going to say... I'm going to say D tier. Just above Lara. Bastion is a cruddy Arcsage. Get out of here, Bastion. I'm gonna put you below Micaiah, and there, booyah. Take that, Bastion. I just don't like him very much. I'm not a fan. If there was ever a redundant unit, you don't need Volk. He joins for endgame, and is basically pointless, honestly. Lethality is really cool if you're into that, but I don't think it's worth anything higher ranking. His availability is absolute trash. But he is just ready to go as soon as you get him. So, there is that. I'm going to put him at like just a C tier. So, Kangas, whatever. Similar to Tabarn, where he's only available for like a little while. But he's like, becomes your best boss killer in the end game. Gifka is just basically mini Skrimir, except he has to use Lagu's stone on Lagu's gem on his first turn. Which is fine to transform, but he'll stay transformed for the entire time. Whereas Kandagas has form shift as well as Tabarn, by the way. I didn't say that. Now we get into some interesting units where Kurth Naga isn't really that good of a unit, but he has, stat boosting. He can boost like the defense and is it like I think it's the defense and resistance of units adjacent to him, or it might be defense and something else. I don't remember it actually, but he boosts some people, which is fine. I think that makes him but other than that, he's not that good. I think he has his buff that he gives to people is the worst one of the dragons, personally. So I'm gonna say he is a D tier, but I'll put him above Leth. I think Leth is just trash, honestly. Ina, I'm gonna say she's a similar unit to the Kurth Naga, except she can't fly, I guess. But Blood Tide is better than it's like Night Pool or Night Blood or whatever it's called. Put her there. Renning. He's just a crappy Golden Knight, honestly. He's not even that bad. He's just not as good as other units would be. And he's only available for endgame. So I'm going to put him here? No. I'm going to put him at the bottom of C tier with Volk here. I think him and Volk are similar that way in how they contribute to the game. Nasir, really clutch the last 2 chapters. Can buff your magic units to deal more damage, which is awesome. He also gives +5 speed to adjacent units, which is huge when trying to deal with the auras around Ashera, the final boss. So I think he is... For that, it's hard for me to rank him anything lower than a B tier. just because of how useful, like, that's such a big impact on the final chapter. It makes it go by so much faster. It makes it so much easier. So I think I am going to put him at the bottom of B tier. And then Gareth is similar to him. I'm going to put him at the top of C tier, though. Just because giving +5 skill isn't as good as giving +5 speed. And the +5 magic isn't as good as +5 strength, but so I guess they kind of balance. But yeah, so, and then we got Sephiron / Laron, who is an interesting unit. Comes at the very end with, like, I don't know, it's just like a boss killer right from when he walks on screen. Getting him, you can only get him on the second playthrough and stuff too, which I didn't say that about Peleus either, but that's true for him too. Alright, I think I'm going to put him, he's so clutch in the last chapter, like so clutch in the last chapter. I think I'm going to throw him, oh my gosh, this is a tough one. I'm going to throw him above Nasir. If I'm going to put Nasir that high, Sephiron can be a step ahead of Nasir. Alright, that's it. I'm not sure how much I like this tier list now that I look at it, but it's the one we made, it's the one I'm sticking with. Make sure to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. Tell me what you would have done with the tier list. And again, I totally ripped this off from Mecca and his 20,000 subscriber special. So go check that out on his channel. I like his content. He's a fun guy to watch. But anyways, make sure to like and comment on this video. And please subscribe if you haven't, because I put up videos every day except for Sunday, and I do my best to deliver some fun content to you guys. All right, thanks for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for more Fire Emblem discussion.